As Blank said during that game, the dockening is happening in that game. It was absolute madness, but most specifically here, Seven.
We got to break down this whole match from them.
Like from the early game to the late stage, there was so many little minute details that made OMV so impactful in this match. But if we go to the early stage in particular,
start it.
Doc in a position where every single one of his teammates off of that 2-1-1 split could see him. So even if he got a little bit over-aggressive, he was going to have the backup of his teammate to keep him alive and allowed to be the fragging machine Doc we know can be.
And not only that, even towards the later stages, he was there within his squad. He was making sure that his squad, in case something ended up happening, they were able to cover him. He wasn't overextending. But when he ended up overextending, that's when he ended up getting knocked. So you can still see the pattern is still there for that team, but the confidence, that's what I want to see, how this team is going to be playing for the rest of the day. And I know you've been asking about this question, Jason. Is this the only time that we're going to be seeing a performance like this out of 4MB? Because it has happened in the past, especially during league stages, and then it kind of died down for them. I hope, insane amount of damage, 1,298. But I hope for this team, I hope they don't get too cocky. I hope they don't get too much into their heads of saying, we're here to win it. Yeah, it's good to have that confidence, but not too much.
It's such a shame that they have a game like this, and we go back to the fact of like, yes, they did this in league stage though, and then they disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yep.
For them though, could this be the one time I doubt 4MV, I start to doubt them that they come back and they can take a PMGC trophy?
I am ready to be hurt again. But hopefully not. I mean, realistically here, looking at this game, how the finish went, and I want to know your opinion here, Seven.
Huh?
We saw Doc get a little bit overextended in his pitch, right? A little bit too close to the side of the Vicious. Looking at the angles his teammates had, I think they were like, we know what Doc is doing. We're going to secure that game by having off angles. We know he's going to get knocked.
We're going to play around that fact.
We're playing it safe around Doc. We know he's going to be a casualty eventually, and we're just going to make sure we secure that win, which really, with the angles of Reefer specifically, was the game-winning angle for making sure that 4MB get the win.
So I think based on that, right, it's safe to say that 4MB has been working on not just Doc working on not being too over-aggressive, not overextended, but also his teammates realizing, kind of like, same like with Team Spirit. We heard Kitsune say, you know what, we know what Nomi's going to be doing. We know that he's going to be sending it. I feel like now with 4MB, they're finally starting to realize, okay, we cannot contain him. Let's just work around what he's going to be able to do.
That's just such a weird thing. Is like, okay, we can't control Doc, so we'll just try to play around the way he gets aggressive and make it work for us as a team.
If we can't beat him, join him. He's on your team. What do you mean by that? But no, it's time. Like,
it's two battles at once.
They're like, just send him out. Like, you clear that position, and we'll see you from 200 meters away.
To give him props, great performance. I'm hoping that's just not it that we're going to be seeing out of them. I kind of want to see some momentum out of this team going into Miramar for the next match. I at least want to see a top 5 situation with minimum 5 eliminations.
Just to go back also on the early game, we talked about the split, right, Seven?
Yep.
They had this amazing split. They had Apex on the northern side, actually as an anchor point in the circle, Baron and then Doc and Reefers as a 2-1 split on the high ground. They were sweeping so many teams early game. I think there was Alpha 7, a few more teams coming in as stragglers, as solos. They were just able to pick it up. And thanks to that setup of that split, easy transition onto then Apex, as I said, was the anchor point in the circle. So the whole setup for me was like absolutely clinical from start to finish.
That's even I gotta give some props here because they tend to be so unpredictable, but they actually took their time here. The Vicious, they were the last team to be able to kind of swim across. They didn't know if they were going to be going towards the bridge. They didn't know what they were going to be doing to make sure that when inside that military circle, they were able to time it just perfectly so nobody was going to be able to hunt them down while they were swimming across. They were able to secure at least the top 3.
Actually, to give respect to a team here, Guild, they're definitely on that rotation, right? Wide rotation onto the southern side, enter the circle off the back of that. Unfortunately for them, as we saw, it just kept shifting back up north on the northern coast or some of the islands, so that was a bit unfortunate on that sense, but the rotation was definitely good. Man, Team Spirit had so many nades versus Incilio, and Incilio had no hovercrafts. Unfortunately, no hovercraft for Incilio means no wins.
But Team Spirit did.
They did have one. They didn't use it as much as you would expect, but they had a great position. The moment they clear actually in Incilio, they move away from the compound to have a little bit of a high ground spot to then clear teams onto the eastern side. That was a good play from Team Spirit to make sure they make space for themselves in that late game. Sure, they don't win off the back of that, but I think that was a really good approach to make sure they have control of that circle.
Well, I want to bring up one team because I know we're going to be going to back-to-back Miramars, and there's always one team we do discuss when it comes to those in particular. It's Alpha 7, and I want to talk about maybe the rotation here, going through the West Bridge. Now, we criticized their previous performance where they went into Nova. I think that was the first Erangel, and they didn't go towards the south side of Military. This time they go in towards, well, Falcon, who are waiting on the Western Bridge, and they lose the fight up against Falcons.
They did end up losing the fight. The thing is that for Alpha 7, they decided to just wait at the bridge. This team usually ends up making the right decision, especially in these situations. Not only were they rotating late, they decided to just hold that bridge for a little bit too long. They ended up working with the 2-2 split that Falcons took absolute advantage of. Yes, Alpha 7 was able to get one of the eliminations there from Falcons early on, but the last player from Falcons was able to just end up eliminating Carrillo, and then it just completely hindered their whole strategy of what they were going to be able to just fully rotate into the circle in Military. For this team, we need to see a little bit more decisiveness out of Alpha 7. They're taking a little bit too long, and I'm starting to get some flashbacks in regards to some of this teams, especially in regards to this team just not performing well. They need to just narrow down that decision making, and they need to stick to it.
First place for MV.
Not surprised.
Bruh.
Especially after that performance.
After that game, for sure. I mean, they gave themselves so many eliminations off the back of that. But as Jason said, right, are we going to see a follow-up of that? Because they already created a bit of a cushion for themselves too. So they're looking scary. But Alpha 7, being a bit spooked to 7 at the bottom of the first page.
Jason, with what you were saying, with what I've been saying too, this is why I was a little bit scared for this team. Yeah, you had 2 great performances in the first 2 matches.
Day mode here.
Oh.
Think about Team Liquid,
no.
right? Now take a look at the second half of our leaderboards as well. I mean, D+ have had a very tough time here so far in our first day, but also, you know, Thunder Talk, we haven't really talked too much about this team. Only sitting on 9 points right now, 0 placement points, really showing that they're struggling to get into these later positions, and maybe they're getting caught in rotations.
I can't compare them to Influence Rage in the sense they are attempting to go for third parties for these strong positions, but unfortunately these teams, they are ready to pivot the focus onto the third party team if they have to, and that's unfortunately didn't work out for them when they were pushing over on Everest on our first Erangel, and unfortunately for here they're trying to send into the southern side. There's so many teams. You have Guild, you have the side of Influence Rage, then Na'Vi. I feel like they need to be maybe a bit quicker to rotate and not just focus on third partying that we know is very inconsistent, especially at this stage.
I feel like, okay, maybe not in their group, but when it came to like survival stage and last chance, third partying was what it was all about, I feel like.
It was. In their group, it was all about third party. And it was great then, but we got a mix of so different many plays.
You got to readjust.
Team playing edge, team playing center, teams being really efficient at third parties. If you're only third partying every single match to try and get position under control, as I just said, it's very inconsistent. I think faster rotates might give them access to those strong game-winning positions if they just rotate faster again.
Well, even if you're third party, how quickly are you going to be able to clear that third party? Because if not, some of the other teams are going to end up third partying you, which we see over and over again usually.
Well, you know what? I got to give a big shout out here, not only to 4MV and their phenomenal game, but to Kidia as well with their game and esports district, which isn't just focused on esports. Because you know what? We all love esports. We all love playing PUBG Mobile. We all love playing pretty much any game out there possible. You can check that out coming up next year as well. And it also supports all the communities on top of this and fans from all walks of life. So not just PUBG Mobile related, but we know what the best game out there is going to be. And on top of that, we do have our PMGC theme skins available live in the game right now. And if you use the code 2024 PMGC, you can get 50 UC off with 10 draws with the lucky spin. I know, Max, you already went for your draws. You got the background you wanted. I got to get my draws in and hopefully get the Midnight Raven skin, or as I like to call it, the Sandstorm skin.
Oh, man. I still want to draw some more because they have this really cool emote where you're lifting the PMGC trophy. I'm like, I want that.
That might be the only time you get to lift it.
Okay.
But we can see the mountain on the 7th potentially lift 7 up like he's a PMGC trophy.
I hope it happens. I want to be taller than Jason for the first time.
7 trophy for next year's PMGC.
It's like, please.
I don't know if we have enough boxes here for you to do that without the help of being lifted
a bigger
up
box.
here. But speaking of being lifted up here, 4MV, the spirits have to be at an all-time high. Maybe Enigma Galaxy could use a bit of that as well. Starting off the day strong, but it's been slowly dying out throughout the rest of the day so far.
Yeah, a little bit of a slow descent right now, but I think we're seeing other teams rise up to the occasion, especially after that game of 4MV, right, 7, they're kind of overshadowing other teams. But Enigma Galaxy, from what I was remembering in the past for the group stage, Miramar, definitely a decent mapper where they tend to perform pretty damn well. So if there's a team that can get chicken dinner there, Enigma Galaxy's definitely on my radar for that battleground.
Especially going into Miramar, I'm going to be looking at some of the teams that are on that second page of the leaderboard. 16 plates right now, D plus Kia. Not having the day that they were expecting. Especially, I personally had this team not
you know, whether it comes to your region or maybe even in the early stages of the group stage for PMGC.
In these 2 matches,
I mean, with some of the performances that we've been able to see, with especially with what we just saw 4MB being able to put up, I'm looking at 8th place. Those teams are already 32 points away from first place. I know we're just talking in regards to first day. They need to start doing something, and they need to start doing something now, especially in the first Miramar.
Well, no, you bring up a good point, right? It's no longer, oh, you need to be top 3 in your group to advance. It's no longer, you got to be top 16 or top 6. You have to be the one, and you have to start to flare up right now and warm up into this as we're heading into the warm battleground of Miramar. Once again with John Allen and Blink.
Shivers.
It is time to head over to the desert for the first time here at the PMGC Grand Finals. Match 5 is upon us. From Torre Ahumada down towards Minas del Sur. We'll be going straight across the middle of the map this time around, splitting it right down in half.
Absolutely, heading from northeast down towards southwest and Minas del Sur prison. We will have our players dropping out here. I am worried about 4MB.
Okay, me too.
We've seen this happen before. I've seen this exact situation happen before.
It's true.
20 eliminations into suddenly the worst performances of their life.
Yeah, it was the group stages that happened to them. In fact, it was back in Group Green. Their second match was a 22 elimination chicken dinner on Erangel, and from there on, they really didn't get too much done. They did manage to get another chicken dinner. They found a couple of podiums across it and did manage to get into the last chance stage because of their performance. But you're right, they disappeared for a few days before they were really ever seen again. Hopefully, they can keep this momentum underway. That's what we're looking for here from 4MB, and we hope that they're able to get it done. They are out fairly late on the plane path down towards Chumacera. Actually, Team Spirit are the ones to take the adjustment lane.
Yeah, Team Spirit's sending a little bit more central than usual. Chumacera not open for them. And I mean, to be honest with you, if you know 4MV's also wanting to drop down there, you also see that last game, you're like, probably a good idea for us to just not go down there. They're somewhat on fire. But yeah, this is the thing. For 4MV, I think that the goal is so close in sight for them right now over the next 2 days. You really do not want to mess things up going forward. But it's so crazy to me they're currently in first place and he technically did not qualify.
I know, right? This is a crazy comeback. I mean, it could be one of the biggest comebacks that we've seen in PMGC history. I think maybe it could rival the IHC comeback.
What was IHC comeback? I don't think it was. That was just like they just went hard last year.
That's fair enough. Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah. Mongolian teams typically do that.
They're just pretty great.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you.
But look at some of the teams here. Incilio currently on 43 points. I would say that's a very good point scoring for them, considering 4MV just earned 33 points off one game. The average so far for Incilio been a strong 10 plus per game, right? This has been very, very good for Incilio. Team Spirit with 34, a slightly less high average. They're currently tied with Void Donkey ID. But that last game, it was unfortunate. I think if those nades were a little bit more on target over towards Incilio, there's a chance that they might have had some precedence versus 4MV. But by the time it got to them trying to challenge, they were everywhere. They were everywhere at that point. But now looking over towards Miramar, we have D+ over towards Impala. This is the team I'd like to do a lot better going in towards the end of the day here. And we know that D+ here is a strong team. They were just starting to find their feet again, and it feels like they've slipped.
It's really unfortunate to see, but then again, these are 16 of the best teams in the world, right? You step into a lobby like this, you're gonna have a test set before you. It is really rough stuff to see things changing around, but I think, as we've sort of talked about a lot, the most impressive results that we've seen from teams so far is Incilio and from Void Donkey ID. To be able to push in as fairly new blood to this level of gameplay, it's fantastic that they've been able to have the impact that they've had, and they've already started off their day strong. Incilio over a 10-point average over the 4 matches they've played, right? There are 43 points right now. It's an incredible result, overshadowed by 4MV and their massive ascendancy in their last match, sure, but still, that is so impressive to be able to find that consistency. And for Void Donkey ID, with the rookies on the roster, they have had a massive impact, and they are certainly part of the conversation and in the conversation for these top spots.
Yeah, it's something you just can't really look down on, which is Incilio's just consistency over these last 4 games. It's really good to see, and I think that, yeah, it is definitely overshadowed by what 4MV was able to do on that last game, but right now Incilio is definitely that squad that no one really saw coming. They came out from literally nowhere and have decimated some of the strongest competition in the world, quite literally here at the PMGC. So we're waiting to see some of those other teams step up. I mean, Falcons, Alpha 7, and RV, DRX even potentially, maybe even Tongjiabao. But I do think for Incilio, this is a massive surprise for a lot of people here.
Starting out on the tournament is just not something you expect, but that's what we love, these unexpected turns of events here at PMGC. When people find their inner strength and are able to bring it to bear. Falcons have been on a pretty quiet day after their early chicken dinner on Sanhok, earning only 2 points since then. It has not been a good result for them. For a team that people were looking at to be a top placing squad, this is not the sort of momentum you want to be bringing in from day one. They are fairly central onto this game though. They are doing okay, but it's still very early on the circle. We're still waiting for that stage 2 shift. On Miramar, it's always very dramatic, finding these stage 2 shifts. As the scrap before the high ground near truck stop goes between the Vicious, looking over towards Alpha 7. Alpha 7 have had 2 knocks sent their way, and there has been no answer so far. Over towards the Vicious on the far high ground. They are a little bit split as Revo gets flushed, so does Mafioso. So Alpha 7 playing as 2 now.
I think Alpha 7's had probably one of their worst starts to PMGC here. It's not going terribly for them, but usually by this point in time they would be flying up towards that top side alongside that 3, usually. There's still a lot more time for Alpha 7 though, because I think with them and Team Spirit, classify both those teams as more of a slow burn, I'd say, more than anything, is that you can almost always count on those 2 teams being up towards at least in the top 5. So even if Alpha 7 doesn't show us their full prowess right now, it will eventually come through over the next 2 days. And if it doesn't, I'm sorry, I was wrong. But that is very uncharacteristic of them.
I'll try and live up to their name, but easier said than done. RCB not going to push too far in towards Team Spirit, although Team Spirit seems to want to take this into control, moving close to RCB. Actually, no, they turn around. They were just going for the pick of vehicle, smoke from the bonnet billowing, but not quite able to get the conversion there for RCB. They're going to have to re-up on the vehicles, though, if they want to try and make this one work. However, they will stay alive, and that's more important.
Yes, at the end of the day. That's what you want. I mean, they started much more central this time around. I mean, they're used to starting in Chumacera, but they usually end up around here anyway. It's just a slightly different looting path for them, and it's not as bountiful as Chumacera is down towards that southwest. So they can play easily from this spot. I'm just wondering about utility resources they'll have on side. But overall, in terms of the circle itself, yeah, Team Spirit's in a decent spot, as are Thunder Talks and the Falcons on that northern edge.
Moving down to the southeast side of Picardo, trying to get into the ground, break it open a little bit. Next circle is going to be coming in just about a second now, Blank, and we'll see where we end up going. We're going back over to Picardo, so a west side shift here gives Falcons their position, gives Team Spirit a little bit better of a spot as well, so less necessity on those vehicles that they have lost one of, so maybe a bit of a boon for them. Over in Picardo, I'm not entirely sure that teams are going to want to commit to it, but it seems like TJB want to try and sweep it out.
Yeah, this is the first time Tongjiabao's actually been in the stage 2 circle and fairly deep into it as well. A lot of times Tongjiabao has just gone for these wild rotates with little to no information and just bulldozing in, just knocking on the door and not really even knowing whose house they're at that point in time. And I think that's been okay for Tongjiabao throughout their group stage. However, here, now, in the PMGC Grand Finals, right, it's not going to work that way anymore. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. You need to know whose house you're at.
Well, it's always a good idea.
It might be 4 of these. after a 33-point game.
Yeah, that would be a pretty rough place to find yourself.
In which case you're getting decked on the porch.
Just not access denied, mate. You're not coming in. No, sir. Bounced right on the berth of getting on inside. But now moving into the south side, it is 4MV. Thunder Talk are moving up towards Team Spirit as well, who seemingly are going to allow them to do so. Not really much they could do about it on the split that Team Spirit are holding. Currently 2-2. This is the south point of Team Spirit's hold that is looking out over this approach to Thunder Talk, and they are playing as 4. They're playing up together and trying to make their way on in. There is this crater to the southeast, or well, to the south of the La Bendita hard crater. You've got that crater over towards Mikado that sits as like this massive dip that's right in the middle of this circle pretty much. It's a major factor. Team Spirit have a lot of control over it with the 2-2 split that they have, and at the moment Falcons are trying to get in, but seemingly they're having problems doing so.
Yeah, Falcons losing a player already. I mean, last each down towards our south side. They're quite far away from him, so getting him back up again, a little bit more difficult. This is always an interesting part of the circle itself. I mean, like you say, Morales over towards our northeast edge cuts out a portion of a rotational value for you because you are losing a lot of information going to Minister Morales and around La Bandita. You just cannot see over the top until you get over towards that western side anyway. You also don't really want to have to rotate through Los Leones at this point in time. So it's a difficult crossing into this circle in the first place if you're on the eastern edge. I think a lot of teams, that's why you have seen this massive wrap. But if you're Team Spirit, you're not too unhappy with this because you know that a lot of teams are going to be vacating that eastern side. Therefore, you're going to have a lot more presence over on that position of the map because you can see here on your screens, thank you very much, observers, there's a huge amount of teams all grouped up on the western edge of the map.
You've got Nick Galaxy, you've got 4MV on that southwest side.
It's worked out though.
It's seemingly worked out as the shift does go out that way. It's D plus Kia who are holding that roadblock, that strangle on the east side, forcing Void Donkey ID to move through the La Bendita crater, which actually, as it stands, isn't a terrible rotate to be going for at the moment, but will be difficult to get over the lip. Is in the way. Incilio on the south side, they are on the north edge of Los Leones, but they do not have a space in the circle right now. They'll have to try and figure out an approach, and with the remnants of Alpha 7 behind them, it's not going to be super easy.
Ooh, effect. Taking a knock there from Osal, but instantaneously there is backup coming through. Help the captain of the squad back up to his feet. Wait, effect. Kitsune's the captain.
Ah.
Ooh. I thought Kitsune had gone down, but no, it was effect on that high ground. So just the fragger, that's fine then. You don't need to pick him up. It doesn't matter.
He's up anyway. You might as well, you know. You're there. You've made the trip. Be a shame not to. D plus Kia starting to move in from that east side, relieving some pressure, but it's already been felt and exerted across the rest of it. Incilio trying to move in past DRX, but not really getting the opening they were looking for with Westron going down. Potential to get a flush pretty quickly here for DRX. Yunbin wants to step up and go for it. You could see him itching to go for the peak on the ridgeline, but knows there's a backline to contend with. Redlick is there, ready to go for the spray downs. Has that P90 in the back as well.
Near the top. Getting Redlick back up again, over towards Westron that is. Oh, that was one of the nastiest bounce on nade. Almost flushes his own teammate there with that. I mean, Redlick with this ghillie suit though, definitely a player you want to keep on side. Next circle coming in fairly shortly. That will be stage 4, so that's where things start to get a little bit more tricky. Playing out in the blue zone, less of an option going forward. That's the type of thing you can dip into, but not for too long. It starts to heat up a bit here in the game. Guild getting in on that northeast side. They've actually found their way into a lot of circles fairly well. It's a question of how many points they're getting off the back of it, how many eliminations, because a lot of the fights they take have sort of been losing.
Redlick up into the scrap, close range, a shotgun to deal with on the approach versus the P90 here. Nade potentially. Checking the reloads as the nade starts to cook. Launches it out on a slow cook there and actually gives him time to fade away. Redlick cannot go for the peak there. Not just yet, but finally steps up. That nade was cooked a lot longer, perfectly playing the mind games around him. And with Incilio losing 2 now, they are somewhat losing momentum. Unfortunate, they've been the most consistent team so far today. And they will lose yet another step out. That is bold, but it's working. Look at that, magnificent.
Yeah, with the help of Kai'Sa from DRX, but still quite a funny one there where we see basically face plant into the wall to avoid the bullets from the shotgun coming through from Redley. You could literally see the pellets around his head. A very unfortunate shot, and they're able to pick it up afterwards, which means Gillisu, as well as P90, going over to DRX. Very good boon there, and Incilia will be pretty upset about how that all went down.
This next circle, forcing this northeast issue. The Vicious trying to move past D plus Kier, who have gotten in the way, but Voindonkey ID are also ahead of this one. After moving through the Labendita crater, D plus Kier have been sucked into the vortex that they've created, and Guild are embroiled with it as well. The Vicious pushing in. Behind Guild now, looking to put the pressure on from the backlines. It's good for one. And they find the flush. They're looking for those nades to continue it coming on through. Nolbu, though, moving into position. Go for a bold rollout on the vehicle, just getting some scouting, turns back around. The rest of D plus Kier want to enable him to do that. Can they find what they're looking for? With the knock sent out across the way, this is looking good for D plus Kier, but Fabian goes down. A potential turnaround on the cards, but the Vicious, they are suffering heavily, and it's just David left. A spray down from the high ground, and D plus Kier handle it. One knock sent back over towards Fabian, and they'll have to move past Voindonkey ID. However, they found 3 points already.
It's an unfortunate conclusion to the Vicious' chapter there from D plus Kier. Themselves a good spot in the circle now, going up towards that western side. There's still Voindonkey ID in the way, like you say, and Falcons in front of that. But RCB, Loxy, from a long distance shot over on the central side of the map, just sat along that ridge side. They are able to find one players from Falcons. Again, it's a really awkward position to be in on this northeast side, because a lot of fights have to conclude before any one of them can start to work the rest of the issue. I love that from Team Spirit, though. Nice sneaky maneuver, head over towards the single compound that sits on that low ground.
In the midst of it all, trying to weather the maelstrom. Falcons, they tried to make that rotate earlier. You saw that knock that came through. That did get picked up and rezzed, but since then they've now lost one player. Another's been knocked. That just got rezzed back up there, but still suffering, and Team Spirit have denied them access to it now, creating a little island for themselves in the midst of it all. Voindonkey ID, they've been in this crater for a while, and now D plus Kier are looking to try and blast them out of it. Nolbu nade over, gets it open. A Potato's the second to fall, and that's going to bubble straight into the waiting arms of Razak. And now it's just Zeta left for Voindonkey ID. Not really too much to do about it, and a clinical approach there from D plus Kier.
So I was talking about at the start of the game. It's a team that I really want to see do a lot better. And I mean, it usually does start from Nolbu starting to make some sketchy plays. And I like to see it, honestly. A lot of times, Nolbu does have to drag his team kicking and screaming towards a lot of these engagements. But once that does happen, Olsal seems to wake up a little bit. And Fabian's off angles get just a little bit better as well, which is great to see. I mean, D plus Kier, strong South Korean squad. They were one of the first South Korean squads to really show the power of South Korea in the first place here in PUBG Mobile. So it would be a shame not to see them in the top 5 here in the grand finals. Nade across over towards Pmgc Bao. That's Enigma Galaxy. Ralph finding one, and another goes down.
Ralph's off angle there for Enigma Galaxy, catching TJB completely off guard. He stayed out closer to the blue than the rest of them. And TJB lose half of their team. Now, Enigma Galaxy, though, have an approach to make. Do they choose to go towards RCB, or are they going to slam straight into 4MV? The team currently ahead of them on the southwest side. 4MV have been quiet so far this match. No elims, but they have a really strong compound on the southwest side, Blank. It's going to be so hard to move past it for teams like TJB, for Enigma Galaxy, for what's left of Alpha 7, and for DRX.
Yeah, for 4MV, it's a good spot. It's unfortunately somewhat open, but I don't really think that 4MV minds too much about that. They quite like the idea of open terrain, open shots over towards a lot of these teams on the south, and they'll be feeling good after the last game. Sarah opened things up quite nicely over towards Na'Vi, though. And again, we were talking earlier that those teams on the north need some breathing room. And I would say that both Influence Rage Falcons would be quite happy if RCB could just sweep aside Na'Vi, allowing them to spread a little bit more room over towards that western side. But for Team Spirit, though, John, this is a great opportunity for them. Moving a little bit further over towards the east indicates they might have a bit more time in the sun here.
Now Alpha 7 going down, losing their last player. Enigma Galaxy remove the Thorn from their side, and their approach is made 2% easier towards 4MV because it is just such a tough run-up, but they're going to go for it. Mounting that offensive, Snowick's leading the charge, a little bit closer now. They stop at the road, so they are regrouping here, just making that first maneuver nice and early. DRX actually have sent ahead of this rotate blank, which means that Enigma Galaxy are now fairly uncontested on this approach, but Redox is still wary of TJB to their north side. You could see that those angles could maybe be a little bit troublesome, but Redox has it on lock.
For Enigma Galaxy, life's hard right now. It's not easy to make their way through. Narvalo drives through a hail of bullets. They send his way, sparking off the side of the vehicle. Will survive for the time being. RCB now looking to push a little bit further over towards that western side, clear out some of these teams potentially. Enigma Galaxy, they get involved, but I think Tong Jiabao are likely the next victims on the list. DRX have already found a strong spot to play down towards the south side. Not likely to get cleaned up until later. Reefus, though, will find one over towards Enigma Galaxy, and they're still going strong here, finding one more after another. 2 elims found now for 4MV, and they were barely able to get close.
Narvalo managed to get ahead of it, but he's the last player now to stand for Enigma Galaxy, and RCB have him on lockdown. Should be fairly difficult to make it too much further. Sliver of HP, and that one snatched away fairly quickly. RCB able to pick up the point. Enigma Galaxy are out. So, a clear run towards the top for Team Spirit on this match blank. They need to try and put some points up here to get back in that contest, closer towards the 43-point mark that Incilio have, and even closer towards the 53 points now that 4MV have. And if 4MV over this ridgeline, it's going to be a hell of a chase.
Yeah, honestly, I think 4MV could make their way down towards DRX. They know that rotational path came through. It's a question of what the wildcard team and TJB want to do next, though, because if TJB would like to battering ram their way down towards the south side, there's not much 4MV can do about it. They'll be distracted with it for a little while. I imagine they'll conclude that fight, but that might delay them too much. So it sort of does depend on how crazy the TJB want to get.
Beast looking to try and hold out for Falcons, but Top taken down low means his teammate's going to be denied.
He's just like, what just happened?
Like, what? Guys, come on. That was a nade. What you doing? D plus Kier, though, they've been sweeping pretty effectively. 7 elims so far, and now they're turning their attention to Influence Rage, and I'm pretty sure that they wish that didn't happen. What a spray down, what a roll around. Fabian does go down again, but he's got 3 elims, he's doing the work. East now the last to stand, but D plus Kier handling the fight on multiple fronts. Influence Rage fall, Fabian is flushed, Osal is knocked, and maybe Na'Vi is a little bit too much for them to bear, but 9 elims already blank for D plus Kier.
Yeah, gorgeous fight there for D+. I don't think you could have asked for much better there because both fights concluded so quickly that now you can deal with that western push really easily. For Na'Vi, in their head, it's like there's at least 3 teams over there. So if a fight takes place, like, we'll have the drop on them, we'll get third party. But in this case, it's a full 1v1. More damage coming through down towards that south side. It's the Thunder Talks. Tong Jiabao picks up 1 on the back line of Na'Vi. Surprisingly, Triple S doing a lot of damage. 2 players down. Now D+ might want to capitalize off the back of this. That is the case. It was either Tong Jiabao went down and harassed RCB, or they head up towards Na'Vi, but potentially it's both. It's actually just both.
Why not both? Nade over the top, coming on through. Oh, a big pickup, a double, and an immediate burst right over the top of the Mosel. Doesn't have time to get these players back up. The zone's pushing in. You can't res out here. 2 points immediately snapped back by Na'Vi. And they are able to clock on to D+'s game. 6 looking to put the final nade over. Osal now running for the hills, trying to spray down Na'Vi, keep them back to the blue.
Na'Vi putting the pins in the board, sinking their battleships in the process. Very, very well done. Those nades were insanely placed. Apex with another down towards Thunder Talks. Not likely they were getting across that road in the first place. It's a very, very difficult position to play for Thunder Talks, and 4MV just have this angle. DRX did go down earlier. Another pick off there for 4MV, and it will be Thunder Talks now out. But it is looking like 4MV are on for another good game here, John.
Got 5 elims, they've got some momentum, 2-2 split on the southwest side of the Ridgeland, but Team Spirit have Central. They're quiet, but they haven't been any fun so far. I question how much ammo they're going to have in, but we know that they can ration it. They're no good in that sort of scenario. They got the maths to back it up.
They'll probably have quite a lot from that position, quite honestly, because the position they were in before, they had to expend a lot of ammo to maintain position. Here, they really haven't had to do any of that. They've been sat in a compound, they've not had to shoot anyone. Likely they're waiting for this circle to move off towards the eastern side, and it doesn't. It breaks even on the ridge side, which gives a little bit more time to 4MV and RCB. That is disastrous, though, for Team Spirit. They ideally needed that to head over towards the eastern side so they could take shots on these teams pushing off from that northern edge. Now it gives time for them to figure out their next plan, figure out what strategy they want to go with.
Team Spirit do have the ability to stay in the compound for a little bit longer because the fight on the high ground has to conclude. With Na'Vi going down, we now have 4 teams remaining, but RCB and 4MV are going to have to scrap this one out. 4MV regroup now, they're pushing in as 4. They're trying to move over to the high ground that RCB have been holding. They want to sweep this out. If they can get it cleanly, they have the high ground. They have that oversight on towards Team Spirit and can control their movements a little bit better. Loxy nade over the top, though, splits the difference as a split wide, left and right from 4MV, dodges the damage. Another one cooking, but Reefus and Doc have one as well. A nade over towards Loxy finds the mark. Doc now with a second. The shotgun from Reefus, though, barking loudly. And finds the bite down onto RCB. There's the flush and the step towards the backline. RCB cannot withstand.
That is incredible from Reefus. I mean, he's hitting some good shots that last game, but now he's out here to play. RCB about to be deleters in this process as they push further and further towards the north, giving RCB no chance to counter. But a great play from Team Spirit, rocking up behind them on that south side. This is a really, really good rotate. This is a great split out coming through from Team Spirit. They need RCB to live for a little while longer. They can start to take shots across.
It's Super Sub Sara to stay alive for a little bit for RCB further off in the distance on the north side, and Team Spirit will put the pressure on. OSAL for deep, by the way, his entire time is surviving out in the open. Someone's going down. I think it's a top 3 for D+ here, but Team Spirit bombardment now from the backlines. They're chasing down 4MV on the tables and on the match. Reefus low, Doc blasted away as Effect and Nomi handle that flank. Kitsune and Matic make their approach. The spray down is good. Baron under pressure now with an nade cooking, needs to find the mark, but Team Spirit looking healthy. What can Baron do here? Kitsune up for the challenge. The rest of his team's there 1-for-1 on the trade, and 4MV now have only Apex to rely on.
Apex bound the vehicle, has to make a mad dash up towards the blue. Damage comes through thick and fast, and Team Spirit gets the full squad wipe. 8 eliminations, not a bad result there for 4MV, but what a wonderful decision coming through from Team Spirit to make that wrap round down towards the south. Coming off the back of a game where things did not look bright for them, to make a courageous decision like that in this moment, at this kind of tournament, that is what makes this team so good.
What a special rotation there. I'm sure the desk is going to have plenty to break down around that one, but now it's just 2 solos out in the open. D+ Kia, right? With OSAL, they got so many elims earlier on, they're now in a top 3. This is a brilliant comeback game for them. They can raise their morale, raise some momentum off of this. Sara keeping RCB in as well. Not in the next circle, unfortunately. OSAL, I think, is a little bit closer, but Team Spirit should, by rights, have this on lock.
Second chicken dinner for the day would be fantastic, honestly, for Team Spirit. I think they'd be really pleased with themselves off the back of that one, considering that, you know, last game there was a big opportunity for them to get another chicken dinner there. And this might have been the triple-triple. OSAL looks for RCB. Sara will take him down and immediately gets clapped back onto. But one elimination denied for Team Spirit. They're not incredibly pleased with that one. It's not a massive chicken dinner, but nonetheless, it's still 16 points, dude. That's fantastic.
Excellent result for Team Spirit. Same story for D+ Kia, getting a lot of points out of that one. I think that they might be the highest points earners on that match blank. RCB able to get in very late. 4MV going down in 4th place. Kind of felt a little bit less than we wanted from them. But still, we were worried coming into this game. And it was swayed a little bit there. They were able to have an impact here. They were able to perform. It was a really strong rotate from Team Spirit that took them down, and I would not lay the blame at the feet of 4MV on that one. I would give the credit to Team Spirit. A fantastic chicken dinner with an excellent rotate to the west.
All right, well, Kitsune might be coming for that trophy this year, able to get themselves another win here on the board and potentially get themselves in a first place position at the end of this match here. Max in 7 Worlds of Gaming here to break this one down. And honestly, there's a lot to talk about. I know Max is somebody you were very
This game, right, Seven, eliminations alone outshadowed all of their points combined of the last 4 matches.
And for D+, if you rewind it even more, right when they were done fighting the Vicious, they saw that Void Donkey was possibly thinking about third-partying them, going for a fight for them. They started shooting at Void Donkey, and they stopped any train of thought of maybe Void Donkey pushing them.
We can see here how many eliminations they got. Only 5 on the table, unfortunately for them. But again, not going to matter too much when you get the chicken dinner. And your boy Nomi taking 0 damage. That's
insane.
not much damage.
He got 3 elims and took 0 damage. He's untouchable. What are these
What a
stats?
legend.
What an absolute legend here in PUBG Mobile Esports. Ooh.
He's not one to be underestimated, I'd say here. As we obviously take a look at not only them, but 4MV. Like, the fact is, we were wondering, 4MV, they were flash in the pan in league stage when they had a massive pop-off game. I'd say a pretty decent result here.
Yep. I mean, I was hoping for, I think I asked, what was it, a top 5, minimum 5 eliminations. They were able to give us a top 4, backed up with some eliminations. But it comes down to the way that this team has been able to play. Earlier, we were wondering, okay, are they going to be able to follow up that amazing performance that we just saw in the last Erangel with 1/3 almost done of this tournament, of this PMG.
गाइस कैसे हो भाई पता थी ईसा से कॉल नहीं की थी किधर वो भाई मैंने पता ब्लॉक की था ऐसी बड़ा तंत्री बंदे हैं कसम वाह जी वाह तू इतना व्हाट्सएप भी डिलीट कर देती वाह हाँ
गेम लानी है कि जट का वेट करना
आखिर में लाइव स्ट्रीम देख रहे थे चिकन हो गया
है अहमद
यार व्हाट नहीं पर करो यार आप माइनस पे नहीं
भाई प्लस पैंदे आ चंगे भले रैंगल जी चस
हमने प्लस प्लान टुल्ला मेनू रिकॉल था बिठा के खुद रश करके किल करी जाने हो भाई टुल्ला पेना फिर मेनू
ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਬੰਦਾ ਮਰ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਤੂੰ ਜਾਨਾਂ ਤੇ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ
बाबे ने टुल्ला पोर कराओ कसमें माइनस पे आएगा चले दे एक विच 5 एक विच 1
ਉਹ ਸਹੀ ਹੈ ਯਾਰ ਅਹਿਮਦ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਾ ਚਸ ਆਊਗੀ ਰੈਂਗਲ 'ਚ
यारा जी पैन ये देना कह रहे
हाँ
नहीं यार ये किया फिर
ਨਾ ਹੋ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੇਰ ਤੱਕ ਜੱਟ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਆਣਾ ਸਹੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਜੇ ਜੱਟ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਆਣਾ ਸਹੀ ਹੈ
ओके सैटी
ਵੈਰੀ ਨਾਈਸ ਅਹਿਮਦ ਓਕੇ ਲੈਵਲ ਕਰ ਅਹਿਮਦ ਜਦੋਂ ਜੱਟ ਆਊ ਫੇ ਆਇਉਂਗਾ ਨਾ ਨਾਲੇ ਹੀ ਲੈ ਤੇ ਜੱਟ ਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਗੇਮ ਗੂਮ ਲਾਏ ਨਹੀਂ
ਆਪਾਂ ਲਿਵੇ ਖੇਡਾਂਗੇ ਫਿਰ ਆਹੋ
यार ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਦਾਂ ਵਕਾਰ ਦੋ ਨਾ ਜੇ ਬਹੁਤੀ ਗੱਲ ਇੱਕ ਲਿਵੀ ਖਲਾ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਤੇ ਤੱਕ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਮੌਕੇ
वो नहीं यार मैं टिकटॉक पे चला
ਦੇਖੋ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਰੋਕ ਕੀਤਾ ਦੇਖ
किधर आवाज जा रही है
On towards Spirit and can control their movements a little bit better. Loxy nade over the top, those splits. difference as a split wide left and right from 4MV dodges the damage. Another one cooking, but Reefus and Doc have one as well. A nade over towards Loxy finds the mark. Doc now with a second. The shotgun from Reefus though, barking loudly. And finds the bite down onto RCB. There's the flush and the step towards the backline. RCB cannot withstand.
Whenever we saw them push into Novo in one of the Aringo matches with Incilio being there, honestly, 10 out of 10 times you would expect a team, especially with that kind of circle, to be there. Alpha 7 just needs to narrow that down. The one question mark, especially for Alpha 7, that comes to mind is how are the players going to be reacting to this? I know that they definitely come in with a lot of confidence on day one, but if things don't go their way, sometimes they start getting into their head, and I'm hoping that doesn't end up happening because, I mean, in the first two matches, they were able to put up good points.
Yeah, it was a really good step up from them, but unfortunately, this is, as we know, Seven, a very unforgiving lobby, right? Just a slight delay of sometimes even 10, 15 seconds is enough for you to not only not get access to a good position, but then get instantly swiped under the rug by a team that then took that position away from you. But it's still going to be a lot of time between today and tomorrow. We'll see what's going to be happening in that hotel room to hopefully get those players hyped back for the second day of play.
I'm going to stay with Americas as well, and I'm going to go with Influence Rage. I feel like they're currently above Alpha 7, a team that we know that they can definitely get eliminations. We know that they can definitely perform well in Miramar as well. Right now, they're just not putting up those performances. And with the way that 4MB is currently performing, with the way that those top three matches are currently, top three teams are currently performing, they need to start reacting. If not, it's going to be a little bit too far, even though it's day one.
They're starting to leave some teams in the dust here. And well, speaking of dust, we're going to be heading into our final Miramar of the day of day one, which means we only have 2 days left to go. We're going to throw it back to our commentators here to kick it off with John, Allen, and Blake.
Absolutely. We've got one more game left today, and it is, of course, Miramar as ever. From the west side up towards Campo Militar, on the plane path, we are going to reach 1/3 of our matches found at the end of this one. We'll see where the dust settles through it all, because 4MV right now do have quite a big lead. Can they keep it going?
Yeah, 4MV have a large lead, to say the least. And I think, again, we talked about this earlier today with the Falcons saying that that kind of buffer will be very important for them going into day 2 and day 3. But it is, unfortunately, 4MV to be taking that mantle over them. But they have played well to take that one home. And I mean, just looking at that last Miramar, we did have a case where, you know, as soon as 4MV got that massive game over in groups, the performance immediately went down. That's not the case here. I think that 4MV has had to learn a lot of hard lessons, and not a lot of teams get a last chance like this to play again in the grand finals. But they've taken it in their hands, and they are reaching for the sun here up towards first place.
A little bit of a hot drop in El Pod, so I think they could potentially still see separation here between Enigma Galaxy and I think it's Alpha 7 as well, over on that northwest side. So either side of El Pozo is occupied, but it's Incilio, potentially with TJB, who could have a bit of a scuffle. Down towards the south edge, yeah, it looks like Incilio have already taken a knock sent their way, and more potentially still to come. The off angle you can see from Long is going to be established fairly soon, and up into the fight. Flower with the micro Uzi, no healing to be seen, and caught on the cross. Incilio are losing players fast now, Blank.
Yeah, Incilio slowly falling off. I mean, they were on 43 points that last match. They got nothing off the back of it. Looking to get some more points on this one, but it is a disastrous start for them. And I mean, to be fair, who else would it be other than Tong Jiabao, who are starting to have a bit of this, I don't want to call it a psychotic streak, but, you know, they're going pretty wild into these games.
Psychotic, a little bit of a flying party bus over the top there. And it is going to be the backup, and to be fair, there's no flushes sent towards Incilio just yet. Redlick is in. He's got a little bit more firepower under his belt as well. No first aids, though. No meds to be sent on over towards 3TN. And a lot of low HP players for TJB. Going to mean that it's a little bit rough and tumble on the inside here. Fash can get rezzed. Potential to find the second as well.
Yes.
Definitely don't want to drop the ball on this fight.
No, you don't. That's right. You are correct. Grip the ball in two hands.
What was that? I've no idea. Well, either way, Incilio...
It's because I threw a hand warmer on the floor.
Yeah, as you did do that. It was excellent.
Apologies.
Everybody found it amusing. Redlick with the spray downs, keeping him safe. Westron is a little bit isolated here. Slowly going down, but the vehicle giving him cover from Longs for the time being. I don't know how much longer that's going to last. Incilio really wanting to repair now, and not having a lot of time to get that breakout. Onto the high ground, Triple S outside the windowsill. Will try and fancy feet hot step over. Needing to be worried, the pump actions there. Westron finally bled out on the off angle, so first blood goes to TJB. Can Incilio extract themselves from this scenario? They're keeping TJB here as well, it has to be said. And finally, that's what they're looking for, the opener with that micro Uzi. And into the ground floor they go. The pump actions there as well. 3TN looking to try and lock down the staircase, but it isn't going to stop them from getting on in. Longs with that high ground again, such an oppressive presence for TJB.
For TJB, they have played very oddly today, let's be honest. I mean, they've caused problems. You've done it as well, man.
I've dropped a hand warmer too.
I think you need to put them away.
Yeah, we both need to put them away. Yeah, let's put these hand warmers.
They're very good, though, to be fair. Okupa's done well.
Yeah. Keeping fingers warm. Here at the PMGC. Flower on the ground floor and Triple S making their way on in. It seems like they invested their meds over towards Triple S, getting back up as high as he can do with just the bandages. And leaving 676 as an off angle, trying to pop shots through windows if those present themselves. This fight is lasting a long time though, Blank. And in the meantime, everybody else on the map is getting looted. They're getting rotated. They're getting positions in this circle, and they're making it work. A nade in from Longs, and Incilio fall. Down they go. TJB get all four of them.
Really unfortunate for Incilio. I mean, what a great start to their day today, and it has just ended in tears, to be honest with you. I mean, for them to go 43 points, match 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then to get 0 over their last two Miramars. And honestly, Miramar is not a bad map for Incilio either, so it's very unfortunate that we see them here like this. In the meantime, our circle headed a little bit further over towards that eastern side, John. D+, once again, not too unhappy about how this all broke down, but Lamandita being central here does mean that a major feature towards that central area of the map is somewhat of an unfortunate area to pick up on.
I'm now interested in the pace that TJB can set in the rest of this game blank, rest of this match. They have to get on fairly fast. They have to get looted through Monte Nuevo. They do have that as a looting location, but Enigma Galaxy is slowly approaching from that north side, and if TJB can't get some speed into this circle, they'll be behind the curve when it comes to getting into stage 2, stage 3. That could be pretty tricky to navigate. So we'll have to wait and see, keep on board with what they're able to accomplish. In the meantime, Alpha 7, El Pozzo was extracted from Enigma Galaxy as well, not going to come into contact. They go opposite directions from this, and so now over towards Water Treatment around the north side of San Martin. Alpha 7 find their entry to stage 1 circle.
For Alpha 7, there's definitely a big test for them, right? Currently in 14th place. I don't think anyone from the Alpha 7 team or Alpha 7 fans expected this on day 1. But as I said, that's okay. They're a slow burner of a team, though I will say on one of their best map here on Miramar, I do think there is time to salvage this. From a northwest position in Water Treatment, there is viable rotations for them down towards that southeast. So I think that this could be a good marker for them to get themselves back into the tournament. And again, a lot of teams do find a massive amount of success of getting the chicken dinner of the last game of the day, because you get some fresh going into tomorrow. It resets a lot of those worries that you have from the rest of the day.
I mean, that is ideal, right? To be able to find that good meal, as the Falcons put it. Although, unfortunately, it looks like they ate a little bit too early. Indigestion for the rest of the day. Only 5 points in the last 4 matches that they played. The bulk of their points earned in the first. And they haven't really been seen since, which is unfortunate. They've had a few central positions as well in these games blank, so it's not like they haven't had the opportunity. It's just the execution that hasn't been on their side, unfortunately. Scrap on the western side of this central area, and it is 4MB to lose a player. We haven't seen that from them today, really. And unfortunately, it will be the case in this last match that we'll see from them. They'll lose one of their players early. Let's see if they can keep themselves together. They have already surpassed a 10-point average on the day, so their job, to an extent, is done for it. And everything from this point on is gravy, but you do not want to let standards slip.
Absolutely. I mean, for RCB, 25 points. It's okay, but it's not really where we'd see a 6th place team at. For Team Spirit on the other hand, like you're saying, 10-point average looks good for them. 4MV, a bit more would be nice. It really would. Yeah, really, really would. Anything else you can bite off and chew, it's good for your point scoring. It's good for your next 2 days. A lot of the massive amount of stress comes in those last 2 matches on day 3. In the meantime, we do move up towards that northeast side. I think that if I was a player inside this lobby, I'd be quite happy the fact that we don't cut too much of that coastal edge in. That does make it a little bit awkward when you're rotating through. You've got that long sloping ridge up towards that eastern side, which is always uncomfortable to play. So I think I'd be quite pleased to see this. It does create that small problem of having a lot of high grounds over on the north and south, but that'll likely work itself out going into the endgame.
Towards this east side. Point Donkey moving in on the north edge of this, just moving down south from El Azahar. Looks like Guild and RCB have a bit more of a hot conflict going on. Is Guild able to line up for one? They are losing players as well. RCB having a tough time of